everyone, it's Anja here and I'm back with another video for Ophelia Talks. And today we are making a Layla blanket and we're doing that with a granny cluster stitch. So I am going to be playing with my new Wendy yarn and I have some Wendy Wools Supreme DK. And this is meant for a 4mm hook. It's 100% premium acrylic and there's 295 meters on this ball. So I'm going to be making a blanket which will use all the colors of the Wendy Supreme DK range, and I'm going to use it sort of as my sample blanket. So yes, here I have them organized in my two cardboard boxes. I sort of fashioned them out of one huge cardboard box. It fits the 51 colors just nicely. This way at least I have some overview of the colors and I can keep them neat and tidy. I realize I do need to put them somewhere else properly, but for now, this is the best way. I tell you, there is no space in my crochet lounge at the moment, so I'm going to have to do a big reorganization. But for now, we just want to play with this lovely, lovely yarn. And so, yeah, the boxes were the best solution for now. So let's get started. So a Layla blanket here on the channel is a particular size of blanket that I make for that little IKEA bed that you can buy in the children's section that my cat Layla uses as her grooming station. So it is a blanket the size of 60 stitches wide and 50 to 55 rows tall. And in this case, of course, we're going to be doing 51 rows because there are 51 colors. So I really want this to reflect all the colors in this Supreme DK range. And of course, we will also be doing a border for it. So what you will need is, of course, scissors, a darning needle to finish your blanket. For crocheting, usually I use my 3.5 instead of the 4 as is prescribed for the yarn. So make sure you use your hook that you usually use for this yarn. I always use a 3.5 for my tension. This will give you a blanket that's just about 40 centimeters wide by 50 centimeters high, or 16 inches by 20 inches. So let's get started with clematis. I'm going to make my slip knot, insert my hook, and I'm going to be chaining 60. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I'll keep going in a moment. And I've got some colors ready here, like spring meadow, lemon, vintage rose, turquoise, etc. I don't know whether I'm going to use this order. I'm just going to do blind dip from the 51 colors. So I'll be back when I have my 60 chains. So here I have my 60 chains. Now obviously you can make this blanket as big as you want. I am making one for Layla, but you could make this any size you want. All you need to do is make sure you have a multiple of 3. So once you have a multiple of 3, so I have 60 in my case here, you're going to do a turning chain. And a turning chain is just a chain that you do to help you turn. It does not count, but in the same stitch as that turning chain is coming out of, that is where you are going to place your first stitch of the row. So I'm going to do a double crochet into that 60th chain. And in fact, I'm going to do a second one in there. Now every row starts and ends the same way. So we always start a row with a turning chain. You then turn and then you do 2 double crochets in the same stitch the turning chain is coming out of. Then for this row here, because we need to get established with our granny clusters, now we have to do some counting and skipping stitches. In the next few rows we'll be working in between the clusters, so it will be a lot easier. So let's see what we need to do. So we have our first half cluster done. So now we are going to skip 2, then we work in the third chain. So you yarn over, insert, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And we do that 3 times. So this is what I mean by a cluster. A cluster is made up of 3 double crochets. There we go. And now we skip 2, work in the third, and once again we do a cluster of 3 double crochets. 1, 2, into the third. Now when I go into my chain, I go in here. So I have 1 strand underneath and 2 strands above my hook. If I did it the other way around, so you pick up this strand here, if I pick this up, look, it stretches. And if I pick it up the way I pick it up, it does not do that stretching, and you get a much nicer finish on that particular chain that you're working on. There we go. So pick up those 2 strands. So this is how you will continue until the end of your chain, and I will meet you when you get there. So I'm nearing the end of the chain here, 1, 2, and working in the third. Then after that I have 1, 2 left over, and that is perfect because we are going to be doing in the last chain. So you skip 1, then in that last chain, and look now, that's of course closed up for me. So you just need to try and get, yeah, look, it opens up a bit more again. Yeah, and this one will open up completely, so I'm not going to be using that one just on its own. I want that second strand as well. There we go. So into your last chain for just a double crochet on its own. So this is how we start with the turning chain and the 2 double crochets, but this is how we end with just a double crochet. Okay, so now we also have to change color, so I should not have done the last pull through. So let me undo that. So I go back and pull out the last pull through, so I have the 2 loops on my hook. I'm now going to lay this down, cut off my yarn, and I have ready here this one, Spring Meadow. We are now going to yarn over and pull through the Spring Meadow, and that way we have changed color, ready to get started for the next row. So now we are going to chain 1, because that's how we turn. So you chain 1, it doesn't count, and now tipping your work towards you, you can see that V that this chain 1 is coming out of. Let me just show it to you like this one there, and that is the location where we are going to do 2 double crochets. And you can see it a bit because it does open up a little bit there, so you'll have to sew in your end really well so this stays nice and tight. There we go, see? So you do your 2 double crochets here. So really, I call this a split cluster. So we do 2 double crochets here and then 1 at the end. But of course, that one now is done above where we did the 2, you see. So this is how I start my rows, and this is then in the 1 double crochet is how we end our rows. And now we are going to do clusters in between the clusters of the previous round. So it's really easy now. There's no more counting. You just do your clusters. And just before we continue, let's count the clusters that we already have. So we have a split cluster here, which I'm not counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 19 clusters plus our split cluster that makes 20 clusters. And of course we have 60 stitches and we have a multiple of 3. So that is all correct. So now I'm going to get started by doing my clusters in between the clusters from the previous row. And it's really easy now because there's no more counting. You don't have to skip stitches. All you do is go from in between cluster to in between cluster. So there's no picking up V's, there's no picking up chains, just going in between. And I have to say, I do like working with this yarn. It's quite thick and lovely and springy. And I think the stitch definition is just so luxurious. There we go. So let me finish this row and then I will be back. So I'm nearly at the end of my row, and indeed, yes, here I still have to put my 19th cluster, because otherwise we don't have enough. So that's my 19 clusters. And then of course here I have my 2 double crochets of my split cluster, and so here I have to put a 3rd double crochet for that split cluster. So here of course you're going to have to check and see where it is best that you put this. So as I'm showing you, tip your work towards you like this. This is the V that you need to use. This is the V of that 2nd double crochet, but here that's the one of the 1st one, and that is where I put my double crochet. But of course, yes, don't finish this double crochet. I'm going to put this down, get my scissors, and I have lemon to use. There we go. And I'm going to be pulling this one through as if I was already crocheting with it. There we go. Pull it all tight, do a turning chain, turn, and then you do your 2 double crochets into this location here. As you can see, it's a little bit bigger there, but that's the one that I use. Now, if you're not sure about which stitch you're going to be using when you come back, place a stitch marker here in this V, the one that you created when you did your 1st double crochet here, because that's the location that you need to put that double crochet in on its own when you come back. And then off you go again. And this is all there is to it to make a lovely blanket. And of course I'm going to be using this as my samples blanket with all my colors of my Wendy Supreme DK yarn. Now, there are 51 colors, so I will be back when I have finished doing my 51 rows. And here we are. So I've done the 50 colors. I've got the 51st over there. So I will be finishing that row and starting the border in a moment. But yeah, so far I'm loving it. So I'm just doing the last few clusters of my last row here, and I will be ready to start doing the border. Let's get started on the border. I have chosen Shadow. Oh my goodness, isn't that a lovely name for this really dark grey? And I love the color as well. It's fabulous. And then I'm going to combine it with cream because I want to make one of those what I call stunning borders, where you have two very contrasting colors. Black and white was just too stark for this blanket, so I thought shadow and cream. So let's get started on doing the border. So we are going to, as usual, do a row of half double crochets. I like using half double crochets for borders because it helps with the border not going wavy, you know. So starting with shadow, make your slip knot, insert your hook, and I'm going to get started around here so I can explain how to do this bit, how to do the corner, and how to do the side. The other side, there you can just pick up the V's, so that's easy, but it's these ones that need a little bit of explanation. So just get started by yarning over, and you're going to insert anywhere basically. Now here, when you insert into this one here, this is a chain that has been enlarged because we've already used it for a cluster. Now you can of course use this, but you must make sure that you then go next door and try and get into that chain as we usually do, picking up, picking up 2 strands. That way, let me just finish my half double crochet here. It's a little bit far from the viewfinder. There we go. That way, this chain will try to pull this one down a little bit more, and that's what we need. Okay, so then I'm going to put another stitch into that next chain because of course, yes, I mean, we know here that it's a multiple of 3. So per cluster, you will have to put 3 stitches. And a half double crochet is yarn over, insert, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through the 3 loops on your hook. You could also go round the chain space, but remember, you have to do the same thing all along your edge. So choose what you would like to do. Don't put the 3, put 3, 2, 3, 2, and that will be fine. Of course, on the other side where you have your V's, you will be putting 1 in each because it just makes sense. But here, try, I could have put 1 there, to be honest. You do have to just gauge it and lay it down and see what it looks like. If it's still flat, you're good to go. If it starts getting wavy, you know what to do. Get rid of some stitches. Okay, so we are now here quite close to the corner. So that is the chain of this one here, of that cluster. Then here I see there is a V that I could pick up. So is this the V or is this the chain space? Whatever you find there, that's what you're going to use for your corner. So in the end, yes, look, I did get into the chain. So as my corner, I'm going to do 2 half double crochets, 1 chain, and 2 half double crochets. Now, if that isn't cornery enough for you, if that word even exists, I think it's okay because we're going to do another round. It should be fine. So here again, it's up to you how many stitches you place there. It's also a lot to do with your tension, of course, and how big your corner ends up being. So 2 1 2 or 2 2 2 3 1 3. That's a bit much, I think, but anyway, whichever combination works for you. So now we are here, and this isn't easy to put the stitches on there. So again, you have to use your judgment. Where are you going to put the stitches? How far are you going to put them apart? I always say that the height of a double crochet does not warrant 2 stitches. So what I try to do is every 2 heights of double crochets, I try to put 3 stitches instead of the 4 that you would normally be expecting to put there. So 1 there, and then I'm going to try and put 2 or even just 1, you know. And then again, it would be easy to go in here, but that would mean my border goes into my blanket quite deeply. I don't know whether you know what I mean. See, here my stitches are lying like this. If I had done the other one like there, let me just show you. Look, can you see the difference? So those are at a nice level. That one is far too low. So let's undo that one. And let's try. Oh, there's a hole here which I could have gone in, but I'm going to try, and pick up some strands into the body of the stitch on the side. See, I know this is going to take time, but it will be worth it for the finish of your blanket. See, although it does go a little bit up and down, I'm happy with that. Okay. So these are the kinds of considerations you will have to make when you are doing the border. So I wish you good luck, and I will be back when I arrive here. Just getting to the end of my round here, and when you do, you skip that first stitch, go under the next one, and you do a slip stitch to close the round. So that is the end of the shadow round. So for our cream contrasting effect in our border, we're going to get started with a slip knot. Then you go to the corner, because that makes sense to start there as we are doing a particular repeat. And you yarn over, and in the corner you're going to do 2 double crochets. 2 chains and 2 double crochets. Then you chain 1, then you go and you skip a stitch. Now I know there's another one there which I've skipped, that's fine. Then into the next stitch you go and you do 2 double crochets together, and you chain 1. So for doing 2 double crochets together, you yarn over, skip a stitch, into the next stitch, you go in, you pull up a loop, you yarn over, and you pull through the 2 loops on your hook. Instead of finishing off this stitch, you're going to start the next stitch by doing the first pull through, then you yarn over and you pull through the 3 loops on your hook. Chain 1, skip 1, and you do 2 double crochets together. And this is how you will continue all along your sides. And of course, when you get to the corner, you might need to skip an extra stitch, or you might need to, fudge a little bit. That's okay, because of course, this little bean that we're making requires a multiple of 2. And if we arrive here and we don't quite have that luxury of being able to skip 1, do the bean in the next one, then I'm just going to skip 2, and that's fine. Okay, you're not going to notice that in the whole scheme of things. So I will be back when I finish here. And oh my goodness, it works out. Do you know, it's worked out everywhere. Unbelievable. There we go. So yeah, here we are going to go back over to this cluster here, skip the one that closes up, and then go under the next one to do a slip stitch and close your round. Now you might think at this point, but it's only when you put the other round of shadow, so the other round of the contrasting color on, that you will see how stunning this effect can be. So there we go, cut off the yarn, and let's get started with another round of shadow. Okay, so slip knot, insert your hook, and this time again we are going to have to decide where we are going to be putting our stitches. You could put one around the chain space and one into this chain here, but I find putting two into the chain space, because that was what we did before, it was a multiple of 2, this bean, will give you a really nice effect. So let me just show you. And look, this is what it looks like, and I think that looks fabulous. So when you get to the corner, you're going to again have to gauge it. So 2 half double crochets, 1 chain, 2 half double crochets, as we did in the row of half double crochets below in the shadow. Is that enough? Is it cornery enough? I don't think so. Look, it's too rounded. So let's take those off, put another chain in, so 2 half double crochets, 2 chains, and 2 half double crochets. Let's see if that is better. Look at the difference. That's amazing. So yeah, that's the corner that we're going to be doing. It depends on what you have done in the row below, of course. It depends on your yarn, and it depends on your tension. So there we go. So let's do the 2 half double crochets into the chain space all around. And when you get to the corner, you'll be doing 2 half double crochets, 2 chains, and 2 half double crochets. Do you see what I mean by a stunning border? I will meet you when we get here. Goodness, I am really loving this. Look at the effect. Okay, so here we have the last little bits to do. Just one more cluster of 2 half double crochets, and of course then here a slip stitch. So thank you very much for watching this tutorial. I have really enjoyed using my Wendy Supreme. I made this blanket using the 51 colors in the range as a little sample blanket, just to see how some colors would go together, and I am loving the little combinations I came up with. I hope you like the border, and I would like to thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!